All right, morning guys. Just saying morning for the recording as well. So we'll discuss the unit that you've already worked through. So you might find some answers as we're going through the thing as well. Think, oh, that's what that question was about, or you're welcome to add to your notes. But I'll just go, just to have an overview of the actual unit. Once I'm finished going through the unit, we will go through the questions again quickly, and you can tell me what you've already answered. Just reflect it back on me. And then I've got one extra activity, which we can do tomorrow. That's part B. You probably wondered what is that about, because it has three scenarios. You have to have, proof that you've worked with three different people. Yeah. So it's similar to last week, and I've made an extra little scenario for that. So we will go through that. Probably, we might even be able to get through this today as well, and then we can polish it off tomorrow. And for the online classes, if anyone needs any of these assessments, I can email them to you. If you want to do this on the computer, if you want to fill it out on the computer, you're welcome to just tell me, and then I can email this document to you, and you can just fill it out on here. So it just goes, it has little blocks. So it's three scenarios, and it has questions, and then you just can pull it, and type it in if you want. So we were discussing contributing to ongoing skills development. If there's a fire, front door. We're discussing the unit that you started yesterday, so we're just talking through it quickly. I've got it, slide that I made for it, and then we will discuss the questions as well. Just heads up, I will put my headphones in when we get to the second part. When I start asking questions, I'll just hold the headphones up so that people on the recording can hear you, because otherwise I can't really hear you. I'm facing the speaker, and I'm getting a speaker that specifically for Zoom, hopefully soon, that will help a bit with that, so they can hear you. Otherwise, it's a bit of a empty space in the recording if somebody listens to it at home. Okay, so if I don't know why this always does this to me. And I try to use let's start again. So the objective of this is again to discover and contribute to skills assessment. We will discuss that, what a skills assessment is, know how to assist with ongoing skills assessment and skill development according to individualized plans, learn how to support and incidental learning opportunities to enhance skills development, and understand how to complete this documentation and gain the skills and knowledge required for this unit. So just to give you a bit of an understanding of why there's quite often the repeat of questions in the objective that the government puts down for the unit. So that every unit has a requirement from the government that's on training.gov, and we have to fill that requirement within our units. So when we get audited, they look whether we have done everything that they put in that requirement. And the requirement sometimes is that prove that you have done this 3 times, or prove that you understand this by giving evidence that you've done it 3 times. So sometimes that's why it repeats itself 3 times through the unit. And again, as we said before, that our learning style is different now to what it was years ago, where we had to memorize things. So this is just a little bit focused on trying to reinforce something. As they say, if you do it a few times, then it sort of sticks. So quite often the it might feel to you like it is, you know, you've already said something. If you recognize that, you are quite welcome to write answer similar to question 4. You know, if you feel where I'm repeating, you know, myself, say answer similar to question 4. If that is, you know, you get frustrated with the system, put it that way. Because it's quite understandable that, you know, if you feel like, oh, where do I pull this from? If you're on a computer, it's easy, copy and paste question 4 and stick it in there again, you know. It's different when you write it all out. So with contributing on skills ongoing skills development using a strength-based approach. So contribute this, chapter 1.1 is observe the person's skills and competencies in a manner that respects the right of the person. So there's so much normally in the introduction or just in the words, and that's where we start cutting it up. So observing the person, looking at the person and what skills they have, what competencies they have. So if they've had any training or anything like that. In a way that respects them, obviously. So you have to reflect on how would you respect them in that situation, and how you understand that person's rights. So just for introduction, I'll have a little video.
Right here is a photo of me when I was born. Now, I know you did do it, mate. Hey, it's sure not mine, does it? But unfortunately, though, this is a photo of me. Now, for a long time, I tried to delete this photo from my memory. And to be honest, to blame it, firstly, what the hell's going on with my hair there? I remember my mum, the hairdresser, and I used to sit in front of the cut.
Oh, sorry.
With a tub of gel and a hairbrush. On the way to school every day, I was sitting there thinking, feeling, you know, that person nailed it. I still don't understand why I should have heard of that. Also,
sorry, I just have to share the screen with this lot here.
secondly, where the hell are my eyebrows? Now, unfortunately for me, I didn't grow any eyebrows until I was 17 years old. Now, I understand that I had completely no control over that, but as you can imagine, it wasn't really helping my cause, was it? I also had braces. I also had my bed in the pantry. I'm really on the right side. And this was really the first time in my life that I was really struggling with my disability. Up until this age, I've never really cared about the fact that I was in a wheelchair. Everybody was young, nobody really noticed it, and everything just went along pretty smoothly. But at this stage, things started to change. People started going to house parties. Boys started kissing girls. Girls started kissing boys. Girls started kissing girls. And occasionally, boys started kissing boys. But absolutely nobody was kissing girls. I can tell you that much. And it was also that first time that I really thought about myself as being weird because I had a disability. And to be honest, that really sucked. And it really did a big effect on absolutely everything that I did. I started having a crap time at school. It really started affecting my sporting career as well. And for the first time in my life, I was really down on myself. And then the next year, in 2009, something happened. A mate of mine was having a house party. Now, this is a good mate of mine. He was a mate of mine. And previously, I'd never really been invited to any house party. And I thought, what a perfect opportunity to go to your first one. I'm absolutely going to kill it, and everybody will invite all the parties coming up at 6. Now, the invite to the party came out, and what do you reckon? I didn't get one. I didn't get an invite. And I remember thinking to myself, that is bullshit. Like, I'm actually really good friends with this guy. Like, how could I not be invited to this party? Anyway, I was sitting at home, day of the party, and I let myself, I just really want to go. Now, back in the day, when we were 15, 16, it was super uncool and lame. Test the person to ask you to come to the party. The far more badass thing to do is simply turn up and jump the fence. Now, as you can imagine, jumping is not really my forte. And unless I had some kind of crane or like trampoline device, there was no way in hell that I was getting over that fence. So the only way to get in was to knock on the door and go to the front. Anyway, I sat at home and I'm like, you know what, stuff it. I'm going to go see what happens. I go to the front door, I knock on the door, and I remain empty. And then this really weird shock, look at his face, like I was there. I remember thinking to myself, like, what have I done? Like, why didn't I sit at home and play with it or like I did every other Saturday?
Oh my precious.
Anyway, he looked at me and he said, Bill, mate, I'm so glad that you came. I just didn't know you could get in my house because I had a couple of stairs, so I didn't invite you. I remember thinking to myself, is that it? Is that genuinely the only reason that I wasn't invited? So anyway, I went in that house party, absolutely trusted, had an awesome time. And then I remember the next day I woke up and I was really bloody mad at myself. I was really mad at myself that I let my insecurities and my embarrassment and my disability dictate the previous year of my life. I was really mad at myself that I believed this negative stigma that having a disability makes you weird and makes you different. And that's the only reason that people don't want to hang out with you. I'm really mad at myself that I didn't just grow a set of balls and have some confidence and talk to my friends and educate them about my disability. Now, the only reason I wasn't invited that night wasn't because I didn't like it, but it was because I didn't tell them about my disability and that I didn't tell them I could get up the stairs and it was fine. I sat at home for a whole year thinking these people didn't like me. But the only reason that they did is because they weren't that educated about disability. And I didn't really do anything to educate them on it. So after that night, things really changed for me. Started being more social, started getting more fitter. I started going out a lot more. I even started kissing girls. And after that night, I made a pact with myself. I made a pact with myself to never, ever let my disability get in the way of what I wanted to do. I made a pact with myself to not be scared of my disability, to rather embrace it in everything I do. And because of that, I've been able to live a truly incredibly awesome life. In 2008, I was lucky enough to win a gold medal at the Paralympic Games playing basketball for Australia. Now, this was incredible for me. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to go to the Paralympic Games. The Paralympics, anybody that doesn't know, is the pinnacle of elite sport for people with disabilities. But it's actually, a lot of people don't know the true meaning of the word Paralympic. The word is actually split in two. The Olympic part, which represents the Olympics, the pinnacle of sport, and the para part. Now, there's a common misconception that the para part actually means paraplegic or paralyzed. But this isn't the case. The para actually represents parallel. Meaning the Paralympics runs parallel or alongside the Olympics. Same gold medals, same venues, same elite athletes, same time. The only difference is obviously we all have disabilities in Paralympics. Now, this was awesome sensation for me. I was 17 years old at the time, so I was actually still doing my HCC and my DCM while I was over there. And to be 17 years old and sit on top of the podium with 4 of your best mates, guys that had lost limbs to cancer, other guys that had horrific accidents on their work sites and were left up to YouTube, other guys that had car crashes and never be able to walk through and lost loved ones in the process. I sit on top of that podium and so proud of what we had done, singing that national anthem with tears in our eyes. It was the best thing that's ever happened to me. It really was incredible. It's something that I'll cherish forever. I've also got a bit of a name for myself as the dude that crowd surfs in his wheelchair at festivals. Now, I've been very lucky to travel around the world, attending a bunch of different music festivals. And everybody knows me as, oh man, you're that guy that crowd surfs. Now, to be honest, the first time that I ever did this was completely out of necessity, because I was sick and tired of sitting in the mosh pit and looking at all the articles. You don't understand how much that sucked after that. But from the first time I did it, I was absolutely hooked. It's an incredible feeling sitting on top of that crowd in what I like to call the best seat in the house. And to be honest, it really is incredible. I think it's a really cool metaphor for people with disabilities as well. You know, what they can really do, getting out there and making them all through the perspective. And on a side note, I've only fallen out once, and don't worry, I didn't get any more stages. Now, when I reflect on my life, I think back to when I'm really happy that I can see here now and think that all this stuff almost didn't happen to. I remember back when I was 14, I think a 14-year-old girl, and I think I had this really low expectations of myself of what I could achieve. And I let that dictate what I did in everyday life. I think back to 14-year-old Dylan who thought of his disability as this really shitty burden that was really, really hard to overcome. I think back to 14-year-old Dylan, I think, man, I'm so lucky to feel that I was doing these days. I'm so glad that I could challenge my own perception about what I thought about disability. And to be honest, I can sit here in front of you all today and tell you 100% what is true. If I ever had the chance to go back in time or eat some kind of magic pill and walk again, there's no way in hell it could ever pay me enough to do it. Because I absolutely love everything that's involved in my life, wheelchair or not, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But unfortunately, there are so many kids right across the world and all around Australia that are really struggling socially because of their disability. Disability remains this thing that nobody really wants to talk about. And there's still this negative stigma that having this disability is this weird, unlucky, really ugly thing. And for kids with disabilities that don't have any confidence, it's really, really hard for them to get over this and get into the world and do what they want to do. And it really restricts everything that they want to achieve. Now, there are heaps of problems in the world. Poverty, refugees, same-sex marriage, gender equality. They're all very, very important things. But when the hell do you ever do anything about disability? Or when you ever turn on TV and see the first news story about somebody with a disability? Or when you turn on your TV and see a wheelchair TV now? Sorry, I was out in a wheelchair. Or somebody with cerebral palsy in our home. Or an actual blind actor playing a blind actor, as opposed to some bloke who's just closing his eyes. Now, I remember when I was a kid, when I was struggling when I was 14, I just wish I could have turned on my television and seen a guy in a wheelchair achieve it. Because it would have made me realise that, you know what, I could do that too. That one day could be me. I wish I had a positive role model in the media where I could have seen somebody absolutely killing it. And that would have instilled the confidence in me to get out there and do whatever I want. I think it's really important moving forward that we as a society change our perception of disability away from this idea that it's really bad, unlucky, weird thing. And stop being so scared to talk about it. We need to realise that it's okay to have any disability. And we need to further our expectations of what people with disability. Moving forward, I think in order to do that, we need a mainstream disability. Get people with disabilities into our mainstream media. And that will increase the visibility in a positive way. We need to make disability each more commonplace. And we need to start the conversation about it. This will go a long way in long way. And then, who knows? Maybe one day we can do that. These kids, like me, like I used to be, won't be going through such a tough time. So it won't be embarrassed about their disability ever again. And I have the confidence to go out there and do whatever they want. But as a society, we really have to hope that they take a much better haircut than that.
Gives us a bit of an insight. Not all disability are behaviors, and that we can be looking after somebody like him, or just sort of taking him around and looking after somebody like that. So Stephen Hawking said that intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. We're dealing with the person, not the disability. So we have to look past the disability and consider the actual person. So there's different types of disabilities, different types of impairments. Of course, there's the physical disability, losing your legs. There's intellectual disabilities, so people that have acquired brain injury, or perhaps were just born, with an intellectual disability. Psychiatric disability, development and learning disabilities. Then there's sensory disabilities. A lot of the autism is the sensory disability, so these senses are really hyped up. Some senses are more sensitive than others, and some others are just not developed properly. The other side of the coin. And then the presence of disease-causing organisms. So just as with dementia, there is also people with dwarfism. They might, age faster. People with uh, uh, if they are Down syndrome, some of them can also age, much faster. Their hearts, sometimes they have heart problems or, other issues that causes them physical disabilities. And then, so we talking about the social model of disability in the sense that we have to change. They can't change. We have to change and allow them to be a part of society. They are part of society. They're a large part of society, but for many years they've been hidden away. People have been ashamed and hidden them away. And as well as they haven't had the access that they need. And the social model of disability specifically looks at the disability may be reduced if the individual's quality of life is the aim, and the treatment that's opposite to the medical model of disability, where they treat people for the disability. They actually, get medication to improve whatever disease they have. Similar to medication that could be mood altering, that will help people with autism if they have outbursts, then that would tame their mood, or perhaps, trying psychotic drugs to calm people down. That's also a type of medical model of disability. Instead of looking at, what can we do in the environment to prevent them from not having outbursts? Instead of drugging them up, perhaps we can do something that, change it. But these lights can set people off that have, that gets fits. So instead of giving them medication for fits, maybe just make sure that the society that they move in is adaptable to them and makes provisions for them. So remember the first part of the introduction in chapter 1 is to observe. So we are coming in as observers, and we are looking carefully at the individuals, and we expect to observe the following settings. So we look at the person's dwelling, at their home, at their household. We look at specialized residential facilities. We will be observing them in these different, settings, whether it's in community centers, supported employment venues, open employment venues, government agencies, voluntary agencies, training, so there's just places that we'll be going to observing them. And we ascertain the core skills and competencies to communicate, help them with their personal hygiene, meal preparation, in transport, taking them around town. One of my other students was saying he had a fellow that he picked up at the hospital last week. He's got a bad brain injury, and this fellow wanted to drive around. He ended driving almost 300 kilometers because he was driving almost the whole day, driving around. And then his boss phoned him and said, "Oh, you shouldn't be driving around that much." But, that's what the client wanted, so that's what he did. So sometimes we, that's because I don't get to go out quite often, and then, they'll get you to drive them around. Teaching them how to have the daily living activities like handling money, how to dress themselves and things like that in their house. Of course, grooming, eating, working, any household tasks we might be expected to help them with. And recreational activities. It's quite nice if you can take somebody to the swimming pool and actually go swimming with them, or take them to the gym. Of course, we're there to observe them, so we shouldn't get too involved in our own activities. But you can do things with them and have fun. It's not all just doom and gloom. There's a lot of fun activities that you can do. I think Don is coming on Friday. I will get him to come and see you at some stage as well, or Sarah will in anyway. He runs Mackay Lifestyle Choices, and his outlook is entirely on social activities, you know, for the people that he takes out. He takes in places. They go out for dinner, they go to early, and, you know, they're always going somewhere. So he's very focused on the social activities. And if that is what you really enjoy doing, you know, you join a group like that and you get to do that. You get to go out with them a lot. One of my friends said she did that for a while, but the only problem is that it can be quite expensive for yourself because you have to pay your own way. Although you get paid for being with them, but you know, you also spend your own money along the way. So, but you know, it can be fun. So being a person-centered approach, we're looking at the person, the individual, who they are, and their uniqueness. And this ensure that the individual is involved in all the decisions you are making. You know, you're not just going to make decisions on behalf of them. They make the decisions, and we like say yes, okay, we'll see if we can do that, and we try to, you know, follow whatever they want us to do. Remember their rights, confidentiality when you know, deal with any of their things, their privacy, their self-determination. So what do they want to do? How far do they want to take it? If we go for a walk, it's about, okay, encouraging them to take a walk, a long walk. But if they, after 10 steps, say, I don't want to walk anymore, it's their self-determination you have to work on. Yeah, you can encourage as much as you can, but you can't force them. And then, of course, access and equality, that's the whole unit on its own, where we talk about providing access for people with disabilities. And then discrimination. Obviously, a lot of people with disabilities are discriminated against. It's just the society we live in, and people are scared. I think quite often discrimination comes from a lack of understanding and fear. And we as the care workers will be that buffer for them. You know, we'll pick up on those clues where people don't really want them there, or, you know, they feel excluded in areas. So talking about the client's dignity, these tasks may be difficult to achieve. At the same time, you must allow the client to act independently of an assistant. So quite often, and when you start working with some of the older care workers that have been in the industry for a long time, they still come from the approach where it was very rigid and very, you know, things were just done their way or their highway, and the clients have to just, you know, fall in line with that. And I do hear often, and you know, out there in the, when you actually get out there and working with clients, that you'll see that, and you'll find that people are restricting the clients, and everything I'm telling you is opposite to what they're actually doing out there. So the government did not design these courses, you know, blindly. They designed it because they knew that these are issues. At Good Shepherd Lodge, we've been challenged for many years about giving people dignity and choice. But those are issues that are real difficult issues for some of the older nurses to get their heads around. So you will be facing challenges like that, I can guarantee you, where people are not allowing their clients to act independently, where they're not giving them the opportunity to do their thing. You know, just at the end of the day, and I've said this to and work situations to my colleagues so many times, if you allow somebody to just do something in their own time, you save yourself some time. Quite often we think if we do it, we get on with it, then it's done. But if you take the independence away, like I've got a lot of experience with elderly people, so quite often I'll use that as example. But I have an elderly client that wants to go to the toilet. She wants to walk to the toilet, and I come in there and I say, "Oh no, come on, my darling, I'll just bring the toilet chair here. You just sit down on the toilet chair. I'll wheel you to the toilet." So I'm taking that opportunity away from her to walk to the toilet, and I get get it done very quickly, 10 minutes in and out, got her dressed, she's been on the toilet, she's sitting, having a breakfast, I go off doing the next client. Guess what? She's going to wait. 10 minutes later, she's going to try to get up by herself and go to the toilet because she still has that need to do something for herself, to get up. If I didn't, she will. And guess what will happen? She will have a fall. And guess what? I will have to go back and spend a half hour trying to get her up. And then after that, I have to go back every 15 minutes to check her blood pressure and check that she's okay. Guess what? I'm wasting my own time. If I had spent 10 minutes longer and I had walked with her to the toilet, then she would have been satisfied and she'd be happy and she'd stay where, you know, you leave her. And I would have saved myself some trouble. And people don't always understand that. When somebody keeps pressing the buzzer, we get annoyed with them pressing the buzzer all the time. We go in, put the buzzer off and say, what do you want? You know, oh, my pillow's just not right. Oh, just fluff the pillow and off we go again. You know, 5 minutes later, she pressed the buzzer again. I'm back in there again. I'm annoyed with her, you know, fluffing the pillows again. Guess what? If I had breathed before I walked into that room and I had given her the dignity and choice and I'd given her that time and I'd spent 5 minutes longer actually doing what she wants me to do, then she won't press that buzzer again. I saved myself some time. And I fail to understand how people cannot get it. You know, spend the time you need to spend with somebody. Allow them to do what they want to do. Lala will tell you with her child, fiercely independent. If they don't get to do what they want to do, you have trouble, don't you? It makes your life harder if you actually go against their will. And you will see this, you're going to see that people are so rigid and, you know, we're doing it this way, we get it done, and they're actually just wasting their own time. You know, they think they're saving time, but they're not. So it's so important to give people that time, that benefit of the doubt that they just have a need that they want to do, they want to be independent. And then the line between these elements are not always very clear. You know, you do get clients wasting your time, and sometimes people will say, oh, they just, you know, they just want attention. But guess what? Attention is a need as well, you know? And if they want attention, then give them the attention. Give them your full attention, because at the end of the day, you are saving yourself some time. And yes, in the industry, we are quite often under the pump, and there is, you know, we have to just go, go, go. You've got 15 minutes or half an hour with the client and then you have to go to the next client. You might be in and out your car all day. You're not working in one home all day long, you know. You might be rushing around. And at Good Shepherd Lodge, I was there on Sunday night. I nearly killed myself again. I thought, why did I say yes to that shift? We had 14 people on that side and another 7, so yeah, it's close to 21 clients between 2 of us. We had to see to, you know, and 4 or 5 of them on stand-up lifters, and one of them were on a full hoist. We were short staffed. We were running our little guts out. You know, you don't have time. You don't have time to pause and hear what they want. You're always under the pump. So it's good to have to plan things, but yeah, this.
That's like that when nursing on you had to take a temperature and you had to take you know, you didn't make it around to you.
Yeah, give them the time, take time to assist them. The following may assist you in communication. Ask, listen, and tell. Ask if the assistance is required. Sometimes we want to do something because we think it's the right thing to do. Now, Lala will again testify to this. If somebody that's got a disability's got a way of doing something, say they use the door as a to lean against while they're trying to open the door, and they've got a strange way of opening the door. So they've got a wheelie walker or a walking stick, and you coming around and you say, oh, let me help you with that, and you open the door, guess what? They go flat on their face, you know? So ask somebody before you do it for them. Don't just assume they need help, you know? They've worked out systems and ways of doing something. Sometimes you have to stand back and let them do what they want to do and ask, do you need help? And they'll say, no, no. And you look at them struggling on and you think, oh, you know, can I help them? I just want to help them. But actually, you're not doing them any favors, you know?
Just 2 years ago, I used to be there for my kids, obviously with that. So I had to give it up because, you know, being single, you know, separated and just pushing them, you know. But yeah, because he's a visually impaired, I wouldn't do
Yeah.
I should do and what I shouldn't.
Yeah. With visually impaired, give them your arm, don't grab their arm. So ask, do you want to take my arm? Let them take your arm. You don't just grab their arm. So there's, and we will be discussing these type of ideas and tips along the way quite a few times in some of the other units. And I have some videos on this as well, where disabled people actually voice and explain this type of thing, you know, all the time. Listen carefully. Don't complete sentences for somebody. When it's an elderly person, they take time to communicate to you. When somebody has a disability, they may take time to communicate to you. And it's frustrating if you complete their sentences for them. So give them opportunity to say, you know, we have a lady here in Mackay, she's got MS. She's actually quite well known in amongst the disability sector because a lot of people have cared for her. She's only in her 50s. She's in a motorized wheelchair. The only thing that actually still works, she can blink her eyes and she can swallow and she can talk. But she talks very, very slow. She's lost all ability of all the rest of her body. But she's lovely and she watches Netflix. She's got Facebook. She's, you know, she's quite hip and she can still communicate. But she takes, because of being paralyzed, her whole body's paralyzed. She struggles breathing, and so she takes the time to try to communicate to you. So you have to give her the opportunity. And she actually will say to you, if you complete a sentence, she'll say to you slowly and carefully, she'll say, give me a chance to say what I want to say. You know, that's the only joy she has left, is actually talking to us when we go in to help her and bring the world to her. Don't pity her, but you know, tell her about the movie you've seen and oh yeah, which movie is that? But you know, add it to my favorites on my iPad. She's got a little dot she puts on her forehead that she navigates around the computer with, so she can actually watch Netflix on the computer and she finds the movies and lock herself in. She does Facebook like that as well. So there's a lot of technology out there to help people like her. But listen, give them a chance to listen. And then if the person don't understand, you know, tell them again. Sometimes we do have to repeat ourselves, you know. So chapter 1.2, contribute to a skills assessment. So support the engagement of the family and carers and relevant others in skills assessments. So skills assessment is looking at what can they do. So sometimes you have clients that can't tell you, then you need to get their friends, their family, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, other carers that care for them, their supervisors, teachers, technicians. Sometimes you have kids from with disabilities from the disabled school, and they have their teachers involved in the care plan. So you get all of them to contribute to the skills assessment. And in the skills assessment, you're trying to figure out what is their needs, you know, what can they do and what do we have to do for them. So we need these other people to help us to complete these assessments. To be honest with you, you'll probably never get to do a skills assessment, but you'll get given one. And you'll have to be able to read it and understand what is in it. So we talk about contributing to it. When we contribute to it, we can just phone the supervisor and say, you know what, I think we can do something different. Or do you think we can change this? And sometimes it's quite a challenge, isn't it, Ross, to try to get people to see your side of the story, you know, to understand. We work very closely to them, so we see when they have a need, and we see when something can be done differently. But because we were not a part of this process, it might not have been included in there. So to try to change it is sometimes really challenging. You have to keep asking, keep asking, until eventually they listen. So yeah, they're not in touch with your clients. You know, they don't really know what's going on, and you're working with them every single day. So, and sometimes it can be really challenging. In aged care, we've got the same challenges. We have a client, for example, that perhaps is starting to develop a bed sore, and we go, please, can we have a pressure a mattress? And then the company goes, oh, why would they need a pressure mattress? We say, if we see the signs, it's stage 1 bed sore, can we please do something about it? And nothing's done. You keep asking until the person has a big hole in his bum, and then they want to give the pressure mattress. But if they had listened to us when we told them the first time around, it wouldn't have been there, you know. But we have this kind of frustration. When I was doing this course last year, before I was forced to redo this course, I sent all this paperwork to my trainer at Occupational, and she looked at it and she said, oh, I don't know why they tell you to do all these things. It's all outside of your scope of practice. Yes, it may be outside of our scope of practice, but it's about us understanding the documents that we are looking at and the process that may be involved in doing, you know, getting those documents done. Yes, and it's important that you understand all the terminology behind it, you know, skills assessments and personalized care and what the client wants. So if you start putting those keywords in, you push on those keywords, they start realizing, oh yeah, we need to do something. Like one of my students phoned me last week. She works in Early Beach, and she phoned me and she said, I have this client and she wants me to do that. So, but she is in an older child. She's in a care home there, and she comes in. The husband pays her to go in and feed the client. She's paralyzed, and but she's still got a faculty. She's still 100% there, and so she goes in and she feeds the client, and the client had a request, and then the older child said, "No, you can't do that." And she said, but why not? No, because at our, where we, you know, in our old age home, care workers don't do that. It's not your job. But the client asked her to do that. So I said to go back to the old age home and say to them, the aged care quality standard says the client is the center of the care. And if the client wants something, then we do what the client wants us to do, you know. So it's very difficult. But when you go back to them and you pull the law on them, they will change, you know.
Did you do it?
Yes, she did. She said, oh, okay. And she went, because right in the center, the little pink center there is the client's dignity and choice, you know, and that's what all the standards is about. The older child would break in the standard if they don't allow the client to have her dignity and choice. Then you break all the standards, because that standard is in the middle of the standards. So all the other 7, how many is there? 9, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. All of them will be broken if the center one is not met. So it's the client's dignity and choice. So yes, like Ross was saying, you need to have information, you need to have this as a background so that you're able to help your client and support them when you come against these organization structures that are not working. And sometimes, yeah, quite often they are broken. There is a lot of issues that we can't solve. And I keep saying it because I have had a lot of students coming back to me and say, it is not working. We can't get this done. We can't get that done. You're not going to solve everything, you know. But when you get some of the relevant others involved, you get the family behind you, then you might be able to change some things. So how might they be engaging in the process, they may tell you personal information. However, it's necessary to be careful with family members as they may want their wishes and their own input into the care plan. So sometimes it's about what they want, not what the client wants. If it's the client who should decide whether the skills development plan, on the skills development plan where possible, not the family, regardless of the level of support. So you may have a young adult that has been living with his mum all his life. Now he's become a young adult, and the mum has her view on how to care for that son. And that son wants something different. So it's very challenging when you come into that situation because the client's wishes is the most important. So you have a mom, okay, I don't want to let my child go. I don't think they can cope on their own, but they want to have their own living home. Yeah, they're not going to be by themselves. Assisted living is a bit of a, sometimes people go giggle because there's a, support 24-hour support there. You have 3 shifts of people always in there, so they're never really alone, but they're independent from their parents. And sometimes I think it's so important that the parents realize to let go, because you cannot be a parent for, you can't parent somebody for the rest of your life. Somewhere along the line, you get tired and you get to a place where it's nice when the kids grow up and they can move on, It's you do have my friends at that place now where the kids are living home and it's not so nice. It's not so nice, but you also take pride in it that they actually come to that place. It's like a bird in a nest, isn't it? If the mum don't kick that little birdie out sometime along the line, it's just the cycle of life. So and we quite often are in the midst of that, in the midst of all these family dynamics and people wanting their own way and things like that. So when might it be appropriate to support the engagement? Perhaps the client's not responding to the assessment process, so they're not talking to you. The relevant others may be able to offer insight or context or other relevant information and expertise. So, contributing to skills assessment by recording all observations accurately and objectively in consultation with your supervisor and using terms that can be understood, clearly be understood. So, our first unit was communicating in the workplace and in this industry. Using terminology is very important. That's why we keep repeating this type of terminology, because it, like Ross is saying, it's keywords that, brings, helps you to do something for your client, something that, they may need or want. In recording, and again, once you go out there, you'll see quite often they'll say, oh, but that is what he always does. You have a client that always sleeps on the couch all day long. And nighttime comes, he doesn't sleep. And nobody reports that because that is what he always does. But guess what? It's not normal. It's not normal. It's a behavior of concern, and something's wrong, and it can be adjusted. If that client, maybe his medication's wrong, when he receives his medication is wrong. If you keep reporting it, even though it always happens, then only the doctors and the psychiatrists can pick it up. So then when they look at the paperwork, they'll say, but this is actually not right. So something's wrong here. It's this tablet he takes. He's taking it in the morning, maybe he should take it at night, because it makes him drowsy. So it can be something as simple as that, just changing the medication. But they won't know because they don't see them all the time. They only see them once every 3 months or something. They won't know unless we write it down. And unless we write it down all the time, they won't know how frequently it happens either. Then, or you can have somebody on the type of medication that causes behaviors, and then it increases the behaviors instead of decreasing the behaviors. So you might have somebody becoming, having a side effect to a medication, and we're not writing down those things so that they can pick it up. Then those things can increase in intensity, so it can become more frequent. So yes, maybe they always have that type of behavior, but it's depending on how frequently it happens. Like somebody with dementia, initially they might only lose their keys, eventually they start getting to their family. It happens so slowly that you can't really say, it just happened like suddenly you realize that they have declined so much. But you've been there all along. And we didn't write down the little decline so that people can, the doctors can see, there's been a decline. So it's really important to write everything down. And all our observations are the money spinners. Everything we write down generates funds to look after that person. If we don't write down that that person has certain needs, then the government won't know that they have those needs, and they won't supply them with funds to be able to give them what they need. So it's important. Observing set tasks, record and report changes in the communication book. So between staff members, when we talk to each other, we can, use different types of language. When you talk about the client and incident reports or progress notes or the other signs, daily vital signs and things like that, that's all done, and that's all legal documents that have to be done very, very professionally. Don't write into a client's progress notes about your beef you have with the previous shift. Oh, they didn't do this client's care again last night. She was so wet. That's not written in the client's progress notes. That's written in a communication book. In the client's progress note, you might just say increase incontinence, or something like that. Perhaps it's not the previous shift that didn't do their job. Perhaps that client has got bladder infection or something else wrong. So, and because our communication is about the client's progress, not about the staff's progress. So we have to make the difference between that. Get out of there, yeah. And you can't blame them and say, oh, you didn't do your job, because you were not there. You don't know what they went through, You just have to be able to, and it's 24-hour care in some instances. And where, it's not just one shift's responsibility, it's all of our responsibility. So, we have to pick up the slack where they've dropped, There is always, yeah.
Deadly Dude. Deadly Dude was more than happy to hop in from his room to become negotiated to those issues that were.
But you put that in the staff messages, not the client's progress note. Okay, so it's the client though, yeah. So, importance of accurate objectivity. Accuracy will be required for a realistic overview. So when afterwards, when they look back at the documents, that's when the picture comes out. So years ago, I worked in Namibia, and there was a lady there that used to bully the old people. She was an EN, and she used to be quite rough with them. And whenever I came on duty at night, I used to work night shift, permanent night shift. I would see people have got bruises, and they, the whole house would just be out of order. Everyone would be wondering, and then when you go into their rooms, they'll be difficult, or they'll be crying. And I used to write this down all the time. I had 24 clients, and I used to write down every client. On every client, I used to write something, So, and we didn't, those days we didn't have files for every client. We had one big book and we wrote everything in that book. So you write your date and you write every client's name, and along the client's, next to the client's name, you write whatever is, wrong with them. So it's a bit like a handover book that we have these days, but that was our client's documents. It wasn't as precise as it is today. So I used to always write down every night I came on each client if there was any other bruising or that had behaviors of concern, they were, out of comfort zone, or they were acting out of the normal behavior, and used to keep writing these keywords down. Then the one night I came on duty and one of the ladies' arms was broken. It was all bruised and broken. It was horrendous. And called the supervisor, she came and they sent her to hospital, and I came on duty at 7:15. My first round was about 7:45 when I found the lady, and it was already black and blue. But it takes a while for a bruise to come out anyway. So when I called the supervisor straight away, I could say, this is not, I didn't touch him yet. This is how I found her. And that was the last straw, and I thought, no, I can't take this anymore. I knew who the person was that was bullying the old people. So the next day, I went to management. I told them, they didn't listen to me. So I thought, that's it, I'm leaving, I'm resigning. And the next day I went, walked around town to go put my resume at other places so I can find a different job. And I went into this one place and I asked for the manager, and I went into the manager's office to get my resume out, and he said, "Oh, don't you work at House Farms?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Why do you want to resign?" So I said, why do you want to know? He says, "Well, I'm on the board there." I said, "Okay, good, then we can have a conversation." So I told him everything, because he was one of the board members. So quite often in the old age homes, they have investors around town, like big shops, and they are on the board, and then you have the nurses and people under them. And that night when I came on duty, the board was sitting and they pulled all these files, and then this overview came out. I could clearly see, it just came out. It was just clear as daylight. She got scrapped from the role. She'd never work as a nurse again in her life. Because it all came out. And it took a few years, probably near 2 or 3 years before it was, came to that point. And I kept complaining, and nobody listened to me, and everybody thought she was so fantastic. But, at the end of the day, if it's in writing, it's proof. Even if you just write things on a little notepad that you carry in your pocket, that also serves as proof in a court of law. So if you work with somebody, because it can happen that somebody is bullying somebody, and you work with that person as well, and you have no proof, because quite often they do it behind closed doors. If you keep writing these things down and eventually the picture comes clear, you can also protect your own job, because somebody might say you've given them a skin tear or you've hurt them and it wasn't you, and you can say, well, yeah, I've written it down, and who was on the shift before me? So that accuracy can save your job. And it's very important, because when we get in on shift and looking after people, and they get they have a bruise or they have a skin tear, and we report it, it looks like we've done it. It looks like you've done it. So it's important that you always write things down. Very, very important that you write it down. And then care may change because of your observation. We have an old lady, she's actually passed away. I realized I went there on Sunday night, she wasn't there anymore. Because I haven't been there 9 months. It was quite strange. Quite a few of them has passed on. But she used to bruise very easily anyways. And then she got these really nasty bruises. Her arms was really black and blue, a few times. And we couldn't understand, because some people were saying, well, people were just holding her too hard. But it wasn't, because you can't see if it's a handprint, especially on the elderly when their skin is so frail. It's clear the size of the bruise. This was bigger. And I realized that it was actually the bedside table. People were pushing the bedside table over her lap, and she would eat by herself. So they'd leave it like that so she can, get to a drink and stuff. But when she's finished eating, she's trying to push it away, and that's where she got bruised. So I told them, look, I think this is what it was. And then we started removing the bedside table and taking care of. Whenever she was finished with her breakfast and stuff, we go and actually move the table, not leave it over her, and then the bruising stopped. So, the care changed. There was a slight change in the care, and I realized it was just something simple like that. So things can change, and you can contribute to that change. Contribute to skills assessment, provide feedback to your supervisor about any changes. Remember, I like calling us assistant in nurses. That's what I am. I'm an assistant in nursing. Our first priority is to our client. Our second priority is to the nurse. We're the assistant to the nurse. Okay, so you report every single thing to the nurse. The nurse will look very good if she's at the end of the day write a report and she knows all these things about all these clients and she's never even in their rooms. You gave them a little tablet here and there because you kept them up to date. You kept calling them, say, oh, Mrs. So-has got a bruise, Mr. So has got a cut, Mr. So is hot to touch, and they come and they take the blood pressure and the temperature and, oh, this person is sick, oh, let's look after this person. But you were actually the one that had reported it. So keep reporting, and they don't mind that, they actually appreciate it. The more we report, the more they appreciate it because it reflects good on them as well, that they're aware of what's happening on the floor. So report to them, it's really important. Skills development might be in life skills. So unlike working with older people, when you work with people with disabilities, we always setting goals, we're always trying to teach them new things. So unlike when an older person are losing their ability with disability, it's more we are actually teaching them new skills. So our focus is slightly different. We have goals and plans to help these people to develop better life skills. Learn how to cook an egg, boil an egg, learn how to make a cup of tea, learn how to, make a meal. Get some pasta in the pot, boil the pasta, fry some onions, or, teach them how to make a dish. Life skills in cleaning, life skills in washing their washing. Some of these things are really, really simple, and we think, well, but when somebody's with a disability, they go into assisted living, this activities of daily living and teaching them how to do these things become part of our role. It's our job to teach them how to do these things. Vocational skills. So you may teach somebody to read, or you might teach them how to add up. Here we go shopping today. Okay, so this thing costs $10, this thing costs $2.50. So you get them to add it up and make sure they've got enough money. And that's almost like an accidental learning. They learn how to make sums without realizing it, really. So, or planning before we go to the shop, let's make a shopping list. What's finished? What do you need from the shop? Let's make it. And they learn those vocational skills, how to make a shopping list. They learn how to catch the bus. We teach them how to read the bus schedule, social skills. I'm gonna highly encourage you guys to go and watch on Netflix Love on the Spectrum. Go and watch it. It is brilliant. Love on the Spectrum, the movie, the series is called. It's about people with autism spectrum. It's about social skills. People with autism struggles with social skills. They struggle with chit chat. They struggle with meeting new people. And we can teach them those skills. We can help them to pick up the clues. On Love on the Spectrum, there's this, it's made in Australia with these autistic young men and women that meeting each other and going on dates. And there's this expert, she's assistant trainer or something. I don't know what this is. She's probably a diversional therapist or something. She goes out and she sits with them and teach them how to do chit-chat and how to ask people questions to get to know each other, and you know, teaching them those personal, those social skills. Personal support skills we can teach them. That's like the, you know, how to shower yourself properly, how to wash your hair. Maybe you might teach a young lady how to, you know, make up herself or dress nicely, or, you know, things like that. There's personal support skills. Maintaining relationships, including intimate relationships, how to maintain relationships with other people, and maintaining relationships with their family. Physical health, including sexual health, safety. Some of these issues are really big issues, and when you, like I've heard some people say, some of the students told me that works in the disability school, you have young adults, you have young teenagers, they have the same needs that any normal person has. So you will change, you'll be challenged by some of these issues, you know. And Rossa told us he's had some young people that he's looked after that has done some real challenging needs, and you have to be able to explain to them, talk to them. If you don't have the skills to, or you feel uncomfortable to do it, find resources that you can communicate with them, you know, to help them to understand. I don't think we had Donnie today yet. It was not on here. One of my imaginary friends is Donnie, and he's a disabled person, and he goes and he's overly friendly with one of the care workers, and he wants to stalk her on Facebook, and you know, and there's this whole scenario around that. I think it comes in one of the other units, and having to be able to teach somebody that that's not the right way, that's not appropriate. We have to be able to understand how to build a relationship. You can't just go walk up to somebody and grab them and kiss them. Somebody told me there was this Down syndrome child that used to go in the bus, and they were all little kids, and they get in the bus, and he would get in the bus and kiss everyone, you know, and the girls would all be screaming, and they're like all really freaked out by this. Why is he good, you know? And he had to be taught, this is not appropriate, you can't do this, you know, it's not the way we do it. So sometimes it's hard, but these are skills that we may have to teach some of the people we look after. Safety, because some of them don't really have the awareness of, you know, cars going up and down the road, you know, how to cross the road. It's like teaching them little kid things, really, with some of the, and you have to keep reinforcing that. The problem is that for many, many years, Mom did everything and she protected them. You know, they didn't go anywhere, and suddenly we come into the picture and we want to take them to social places. We want to get them to help to do other things, want them to have a full life, and then they have to, then only these issues arise where safety, you know. Don't touch the hot stove. You know, while you're boiling an egg, be careful how you hold. Those are things that are really common sense to us, but we have to, you know, be aware that somebody might not be able to understand that, and that we have to teach them that. So changes that are likely to impact the skills development and their maintenance. A client's priorities may change. So at one stage they, you know, may have wanted to learn something, but then they say, oh no, I don't want to do that anymore. So that's their choice. And that may affect their skills development and maintenance. Remember, it's their goals. It's their own goals, not our goals. We do not have, they do not have to follow the goals. So if we set out a goal, sometimes again you get some of these older care workers and in the disability sector as well, with goals is the be all and the know all of everything. When you go out there, they go, well, there's the goals. There's the goals. You have to do the goal. Have you reached the goal? You go, but the client doesn't want. If the client doesn't want, the client doesn't want, you know. The goals is not the most important. So, and we have to understand it's about the client. The client may require more active support daily. It may need a review of something that's missing from the care plan. So there might be something that needs to be changed. And it's because it's not meeting his needs. The client's impairment may change. That will affect their skills development. Like if you have elderly people, obviously they become more dependent. You know, they might, one day they might still be able to walk with a wheelie walker, the next day they may not be able to walk anymore. Then their needs change and we may need to bring a lifter in and use a stand-up lifter to help them stand up. They may become wheelchair bound. You know, sometimes people with disabilities may develop their muscles. You know, we saw that young man, he plays basketball for Australia. Isn't he built well? Hey, gee, he's got such a strong physique. So, you know, he might be able to, he may be able to do things, you know, that he wasn't able to do when he was younger, because he's developed his body and he's learned how to adjust. You know, you have your scenario with Sanaya. What's her name? The last scenario there, where she's going out into the gym and she's learning new things, and and so her care plan will constantly change. Constantly there would be a review and say, oh, she can do this now. She's able to slide herself from the toilet chair onto the wheelchair. She's able to slide herself from the bed onto the wheelchair. She doesn't need us to lift her up anymore, where before we might have needed a lifting machine. You might find some equipment to help her. There might be a monkey bar that she can, you know, use her upper body strength. And because she's developed that strength now, she may use the monkey bar to help her to shift from one place to the other. So that's where the skills is being developed, and this, you know, improves, and then that will have to reflect on the care plan. Because the one thing you have to remember with mobility specifically, we're allowed to help to offer more support. We're never allowed to offer less support. So the problem is, if somebody has always been on a, say, a full hoist, you've always used the full hoist to shift somebody from one area to the next. Suddenly that person's developed upper body strength and they're able now to slide over with the monkey bar. We do not have the right and the authority to just say the client can do that now, so I'm just going to let him do that. Okay, we're not allowed to. No, you're not allowed to. You have to get the physiotherapist to change the care plan. Okay, they have to come in and review the client and say, yes, okay, he can do it like that, and change the care plan. You have to follow what's on the care plan. If they stand-up lifter, you use the stand-up lifter. So, okay, you have a client that's on a stand-up lifter, they're able to hold on, they can stand on, they can weight bear on their legs, you only need that bit of support for lifting them up, and suddenly they're not weight bearing anymore. Their legs give in. You are allowed to go and grab the full hoist and use the full hoist. You're allowed to offer more assistance, but you're not allowed to offer less assistance, okay? So when you have somebody, an old lady, she's always been on the full hoist, and you get some care workers, oh no, we'll just yank her up. You know, they grab her by the arm and put her walk out into the next chair, you know. Not allowed to do that. If that on her care plan says she uses specific equipment, you use that. If you think, well, this person's able to do more than what's on the care plan, call the physiotherapist, let them come and reassess. Call your supervisor, let them reassess and change the care plan. Because you'll get into very big trouble if you not follow the care plan. Something happens to that person and they say, why did you not follow the care plan? And, you know, you can lose your job. You can be sued. So always remember to use the, you know, follow the care plan. What changes are likely to impact skills development and maintenance? We've just had a few. Some other changes is environment may change. You know, family's life may change. They may want to move out from mom's home into their own place. They may develop extra skills, such as the level that care plan now focus on more detailed skills. So, okay.
I was evaluating.
Oh, you're going through your, I knew that was going to happen, yeah. Yeah, so I knew while you're going through, you'll go, oh, yeah, that's what it's about, yeah. So, assist on ongoing skills development. We'll go in 10 minutes for a little break as everyone is tired. It takes a while to get used to, sitting there. Assisting with ongoing skills development according to the individualized plan. The individualized plan is your Bible. Okay, when your clients have an individualized plan, that is the be all and everything on it. So plans, I think, oh yeah, but some I made up my own. We use them. You can have a look on the breakdown. I can hand it around a bit. So that's just an example of an individualized plan. There's 3 different ones here. You can send some of them back. In the individualized plan, if you go slowly through from the top of the plan, is the diseases, you know, whatever the medical things are. There is about the incontinence, it's about the mobility, it's about every single thing is detailed in the individualized plan. A little bit of their history, you know, how much assistance do they need? Can they see, can they hear? Can they feed themselves? What's the thickness of their fluid? All of that is in the plan, and the plan would have been developed by doctors and nurses and psychiatrists and psychologists and physiotherapists and all these people with degrees. They would have been part of this plan, and then the family would have had their input on there, and we have to very closely follow these plans. So, yeah.
What is the daily eye for?
That's when you wash the eyes. So if somebody's blind, yeah. did you put the eye in the toilet? So yeah, so I've got 3 clients there. One of them are Down syndrome lady, the other one is a paraplegic, and the other one's had a stroke. So there's 3 different plans going around. So and all of them have different mobility, and all of them have different amount of care workers that work with them. You will be doing these plans soon. I'm just sending it around so you get an idea of what the plans are. So encourage active engagement in activities. We're there to always encourage them. We need to be a part of the community and have a good relationship with their family and the relationship that lasts. If a person cannot gain these factors by themselves, they may need some support with that. So living activities, so daily living activities are very important. That might be a question that will be asked when you go for an interview. They'll ask you, how do you support ADLs, activities of daily living? Then you will be hearing that phrase quite a lot through the course. Activities of daily living is everything that we just take for granted. We just do automatically, and our clients need help with. Those are things like their lifestyle, recreation, friends, relationships, religion, employment, education, their living environments, healthcare, medical care. Every little thing that is just, you know, we don't even give it a thought, do we? but for them it becomes a real issue because they need help with all these things. Some of my students sometimes take photos of the. Yeah, you're welcome to do that. I can also send you the slide, but the problem with the slide, not everyone has PowerPoint on their computers and they can't open it. But I can send you the slides, and if you want to use the slides. For some of the questions, the answers, because I chop them up and I bullet point them, and then you know, it's not just in a sentence. Sometimes helps a little bit. Discuss activities, including what types of things they like to do, whether they do enough of the things they like, whether they still enjoy the activities they do, if there's anything new they like to try, any worries about things, new things, any information you can improve, any activities lead to long-term goals and ambitions. So these are discussions that you might have with them. Talk to them about that. You might take a client, they might say, okay, I want to go to the gym. All right, now you take them to the gym, they get there and they start exercising, and you're not the expert, so, but then the gym instructors say to you, oh, this person's pushing it a bit hard, you know, they get nauseous and vomit after exercise, and they may be a bit OCD about it. And then you think, maybe we must try different activity. Maybe a gym is not the right activity for this person. Maybe maybe you might want to take them swimming instead. What do you say, Ross? Yes, yeah. You may not always have the access, so a lot of these things have to be okayed by NDIS before you're allowed to do it. So it's like the activities would be added onto NDIS, and you'd have to go through a process to offer them the activities, to get it okayed and approved before you can actually step out to do it. But then again, you need to also make sure, review with the client, and you know, ask them if they are really enjoying that. Because if they're not enjoying it, then what's the use? You know, if they're not benefit to them, then what's the use? If you're trying to make them forced to do things that they not really enjoy doing. And yeah, and there might be other issues, like transport might be an issue. The family may not always have the time to take the person, and you have to go and get some extra help. And like Ross was saying, finances might be a problem for them. So you're good? Can I go? Chapter 2.2, interpret the following skills development strategies and identify the individualized plans. So I've got the identifying the plans with you. You've got the plans looking at that. There's strength-based approach, looking at somebody's strengths. You know, everyone learns different. Years ago, we used to have just an IQ test. These days, they have this IQ test would focus what your intellectual, you know, abilities, but you may be socially intelligent. Somebody else may be very good with math. Somebody else may be very good with, you know, they may be very kinesthetic and they may be able to get themselves, they may be good at sports. I'm not good at sports, you know, so we all are different and we all have different types of intelligence. I can speak to big crowds, and, you know, I don't have any problem speaking to public speaking or speaking to people. I've got no problem with that. So that's one of my strengths. So everyone has different strengths. Some people are very homely and caring and loving, and they can take in a lot of people, and they can take a lot of nonsense from a lot of people. I can't, you know. Some people can just some people can be very social, they can love entertaining, you know, so we all are different, and that's types of strengths that we have. And that's when you come together in a community, we serve each other like that. So you have to identify some strengths with your clients. And if they are, you know, really good, you see, well, they're really agile, they may be able to be really good at sports, then you may look at that. maybe they're really shy and they don't like social activities. There's no use pushing them into social activities if that's not what they like. You know, if you are an extrovert, you get your energy from people. So you'll feel tired all morning until you start socializing, and then suddenly you've got energy. Somebody else that's an introvert, they get the energy from inside. So they need to spend time by themselves to get their energy. You know, they get energized. People drain them. You know, social situations drain them. So we all are different, and you have to try to find out where do your clients sit at with that, you know, in that, what is their strengths. Some people may have attention to detail. My husband's very, you know, he's got attention for detail. I'm like an overview person, you know, I look at the bigger picture. So we all are different in that, in our ways we see things. Sometimes disabilities are invisible, like dyslexia, ADHD, Crohn's disease, arthritis. It's in this, I think this in a book, yeah. Essential skills are life skills, vocational skills. These are just skills that everyone needs, even though it may not be your strengths, you still need them. Social skills, personal support skills, developing relationships, and I've had this slide before, but these are essential skills, and you would need them in, you know, in life, and how to get around in life. Okay, we will have a 15-minute break for the smokers and those who are hungry.
Yeah, don't. No, you don't.